Hello, my name is Kasper and welcome in the next episode of JavaScript Crash Course. Today I will go through the JSON objects and we will see how it behaves, how to work with that and why it's needed. What is JSON? JSON is a JavaScript object notation. It's a text format using for transporting data and storing it. It's very easy and beginner friendly. So let me go with the example, and the example is a JSON string. So I will declare the new JSON and it is const, for example, data, and I assign here a string, JSON string, and the syntax looks like that. So inside the string I have a curly brackets like in an object. I have the key, and this key will be, for example, name, and the value also string, for example, Johnny. This is the key and the value is a pair of the data, and for example I can add also another pair and it will be an age, and this Johnny is, for example, 25 years old, and I add there a data type a number. There is a string, so it can be mixed. I will go further which data we can use inside of JSON, but for example we can define also something like ID, and here type also some numbers for ID number, and it's basically a JSON string. I will console it log, and it's here as a string. So what we can do with that, let's go to the next step. Let's briefly discuss the JSON objects, and it looks like more similar to JavaScript objects, but you have strings, and obviously there is a curly bracket like in JavaScript objects, and what's inside? Inside there is a string as a key. In the JavaScript it would look like, let me go data.js for example, and I will copy the what's inside, and in JavaScript it would look like key is not a string, and it's very similar. What is more, in JSON we can pass values like strings, numbers, arrays, objects, boolean, null, but it can be passed something like function or date. It can be in the JavaScript object, but definitely not in JSON. It's a big trouble in a JSON format. So if you serialize or parse the JSON to retrieve the data from inside, there is always a problem with date, yeah, because function you can skip, but date it has to be serialized with some additional syntax. Let's go deeper into JSON, and I will declare a new variable and assign there JSON object. So I will skip the string and I will show you how data can be applied. So like we talked, there can be a value string, there can be a number, there can be a boolean, every pair is separated with the comma, so I can go further. I can go with the key, for example, employee and pass there an object, and this object also has the keys with the string. For example, let's pass Microsoft, and what can I also pass with the number is here. Okay. Oh, it's going to save as the normal JavaScript object. So that's how it look like. Obviously, it can be also an array. So I can pass, for example, something like paths. And here will be an array of strings like dog, cat, and some what can also be, for example, hamster. And that's basically how it works. I can now create a new file in my directory, and we'll show you how to basically make a JSON file. So JSON file has an extension JSON. I will copy this data, pass here, and I'm going to make it correct. So I'm going to pass strings as a key. Also inside the object. And the last value cannot include the comma. So this is the correct structure of JSON in the data.json file. Okay, so let's go back and work on the data. So I can take a JavaScript object and also make it a JSON, and it can be done like, for example, const data is equal to JSON stringify, and I can pass the JSON object. I can console log. So I have the proper JSON made from this, so you can see that keys are also the strings, not like in the JavaScript object. And to retrieve data from the JSON string, I can use something called like JSON parse. And for example, I will make a const object, so it will be a declaration of the JSON parse data. So what basically parsing is doing, it's going to revert the JSON to an object, and I can access each value by key, like in JavaScript. It's very helpful in the making requests and handling the responses in the backend. So basically every endpoint is giving us a JSON as a data from database, for example, and the front-end developer job is to maybe render this JSON data and create some components which will take as arguments this data which are parsed. So I have this object right here, parsed. So I have props like name, age, is adult, employee, and pets. And I would like to access, for example, right now I will log only object, and I have there an object, and I can access, for example, name, and there is a Johnny. So no problem, I will clean and I will access, for example, age. There is an age. I can access pets like in normal JavaScript object. It's working properly. So this is how I can handle JSON in the both sides. I can create from object a JSON by JSON stringify and parse a JSON to create an object and manipulate some data to some conditional rendering or strictly directly rendering some components with the props. So basically it is all about JSON in the beginner part of the tutorial. So that's what you need to start development in the JavaScript developer job or web developer. Is totally sufficient. So we will go to the next material and see you.